Hello students, today we will start a new chapter in geography, which is chapter number 12, natural and man-made disasters. So as you know, there are many disasters that keep happening from day to day, and in different seasons, in different weathers, we see that some disasters are happening all over the world. So what are these disasters and what are these natural hazards? So let us first understand what is a natural hazard. A natural hazard is any natural occurrence or event which is infrequent and capable of threatening life and property. So any natural occurrence, it should be a natural occurrence or event which is infrequent and capable of threatening life and property. That is, the event should be infrequent. It should not happen regularly. It should not happen again and again, in a few days or daily. It is infrequent. It does not happen on a regular basis, and it is capable of threatening life and property. And when this type of event happens, it destroys lives. It destroys life. And there is a lot of destruction of property as well. People lose their homes, they lose their cities and towns and countries. People lose their homes, their property, their belongings, even their lives, their loved ones. There is so much destruction in this event. And this type of event which occurs naturally and it is infrequent in nature and is capable of threatening the life of people as well as the property, it is called a natural hazard. Then let us understand what are the different types of natural hazards. The first one is a geological hazard. What is a geological hazard? It happens because of the forces which exist or which emerge from deep within the earth. The forces which happen, the events which happen down the earth's surface, below the earth's surface, cause geological hazards. Geological hazards are caused by the forces which happen below the earth's surface or deep within the earth's surface, such as the movement of tectonic plates. The movement of tectonic plates, what happens on the movement of tectonic plates? Earthquakes happen and volcanoes are formed. So these are some examples of geological hazards, right? Such as earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. They happen because of the movement of tectonic plates and heating up of the magma deep inside the earth's surface. So these are examples of geological hazards. And the next one is weather associated hazards. So these hazards happen above the earth's surface. The hazards which happen just above the earth's surface are floods, droughts, and avalanche and landslides. All of these hazards happen over the earth's surface. That is why these hazards are called as weather associated hazards. And these happen because of the forces of the weather, such as the wind, the air. For example, the water in the rivers cause floods, and the extreme heat of the sun rays causes droughts. So these are examples of weather associated hazards. So let us see what is an earthquake. Earthquake is also a natural hazard, and it happens because of the movement of the tectonic plates below the earth's surface. And it is a mild or violent shaking of part of earth. It is a mild, it can also be mild, but it can also be very violent. The shaking can be mild, but the shaking can also be very violent, that it causes a huge destruction to life and property, and the shaking is of a part of earth. It is a part of earth. So earthquake happens on a particular part of earth, and it is also a mild shaking, or it can also be a violent shaking of earth's surface. Then let us see what is volcanoes. Volcano is a vent in earth's crust through which molten magma forces its way out on earth's surface. So when this molten magma, which is in liquid state, forces its way up through the vent of the volcano. Vent of the volcano is a pipe-like structure through which the molten magma goes up the volcano, and it oozes out of a small opening at the top of the volcano. A small opening at the top of the volcano, which is called as the crater of the volcano. It is called the crater. The small opening at the top of the volcano is called the crater, and the pipe through which the magma flows, the small narrow opening, the small narrow space in between the volcano through which the magma comes up is called as a vent. It is called as a vent. Okay. So this magma forces its way up through the opening of the volcano, which is the crater, and it oozes out with violent force from the top of the volcano and gets deposited on the sides of the structure. It gets deposited on the sides of the mountain-like structure or the volcano after it cools down. See on page number 216, the neck through which lava, steam or ashes gush out is called as shaft or vent. Okay, the funnel-shaped mouth of the volcano is called as the crater. It is called as the crater. Then what do you understand by high viscosity lava and low viscosity lava? What is viscosity? It is the amount of water mixture along with some other material. It is the content of water and some other material in a substance. So in lava, there is some content of silica and there is some content of water. And the ratio between them determines the viscosity of the lava. The ratio of silica and water determines the viscosity of lava. So what is a high viscosity lava? It has more of silica and less of water. it has more of silica and less of water, it is called a high viscosity lava. And if it has less of silica and more of water, then it is called a low viscosity lava. It has less of silica and more of water, then it is called as less viscosity or low viscosity lava. A high viscosity lava flows down the volcano very slowly, whereas a low viscosity lava flows down the volcano very fastly. Low viscosity means that it will flow very fastly down the volcano. High viscosity means it will flow down the volcano with very low speed or very slowly. Then let us see the other types of natural disasters. There is landslide. And what is a landslide? A landslide is a sudden movement of soil. It is a sudden movement of soil and weathered rock. Soil and weathered rock material down the slope due to gravity. Down the slope due to gravity. So when the soil and rocks come down the slope of a mountain with very high speed because of the force of gravity, because the gravity is pulling them down the slope of the mountain, it is called a landslide. It is a sudden movement. It happens very suddenly. The people who are standing down the mountain do not know that a landslide is coming down the mountain. And so the landslide happens very suddenly and the soil and the rock material comes down the slope of the mountain because of gravity. So the next one is the avalanche. What is avalanche? Avalanche is the mass of snow, ice and debris which comes down with high speed. It comes down with high speed from steep slope of mountain. From the steep slope of mountain. So when snow, ice and different materials such as the broken branches, the small rocks and soil is coming down, so this is called the debris. It has rock fragments and it also has small branches and remains of trees and animals. It is called debris. So when debris and snow and ice comes down a mountain, it is called an avalanche. And this coming down of the snow, ice and debris is with very high speed. This debris, snow and ice comes down the mountain with very high speed and it happens at the steep slopes of mountains. This debris comes down the steep slopes of mountain which are very sharp. The slopes which are very sharp. So when ice, snow and debris comes down with high speed from the slopes of the mountains, from the steep slopes of the mountains, it is called an avalanche. And the next one is tropical cyclone. Do you know what is a tropical cyclone? A tropical cyclone is intense storm forming over. It is an intense storm. It is an intense storm which forms over warm tropical oceans. Warm tropical oceans between 5 degree to 20 degree north and south latitudes. So what is the meaning of tropical cyclone? These are basically very vigorous, very vicious cyclones which are very high speed cyclones and they can cause mass destruction which are formed over warm tropical oceans. The oceans which are there at the tropical region of our surface have these types of cyclones, this intense storm which is called as tropical cyclone, and these tropical oceans are there in between the latitudes of 5 degree to 20 degree north and south. Like if this is Earth's surface and here we have the equator and this is the tropic area. These are the tropics. This is the tropic of the northern hemisphere and this is the tropic of the southern hemisphere. Then these tropical cyclones occur from 5 degree latitude to 20 degree latitude. 5 degree latitude to 20 degree latitude in between this area. This area is the area where the oceans have this type of natural disaster called as tropical cyclone. It happens between the latitudes of 5 degree to 20 degree north as well as south. It happens in the north as well as in the south between 20 degree and 5 degree latitudes. So now let us see the next one. What is a drought? A drought is a period of unusually prolonged dry weather. It is unusually prolonged. It is unusually prolonged means you are not expecting for this dry weather to be there because usually you would have been expecting rain in that region. In a region where you would have otherwise expected a rain is the region where this unusually prolonged dry weather occurs, then it causes a drought. A drought is a period of unusually prolonged dry weather in areas where rain is expected. Where you would have otherwise expected a rain, but there is an unusually prolonged dry weather in that area where you would have otherwise expected a rain. It is called a drought. There is a shortage of water and shortage of rainfall in that area because of the drought. Then the last one is the flood. What is a flood? A flood is a natural disaster where the level of the water rises in the rivers. The level of the water rises in the rivers and the water from the rivers flows out or comes out from the rivers and enters the areas where people have built their homes. Then it is called a flood. The water from the rivers flood into the areas where there are human settlements, where there are people living in the city. It is called a flood. All the roads are blocked because of the water and people are not able to travel from one place to another inside the city. It is called a flood. overflowing of the water in the rivers above the normal level. The normal level of the river is the level where it is not life threatening. The water level is not life threatening and it is the normal water level in the river. But when it rises above that normal level, it causes flood. And all the areas of the city get submerged with water. All the areas of the city get submerged or immersed in water. So the areas of the city get submerged with the water.